Good afternoon. Well, good afternoon in Mallorca, and welcome to another Lunch and Learn. And I am together with Richard and Moyo today. How are you guys?
Very good,
Good.
thanks, Honor.
Thank you. Yeah.
So they're from Pelion Consulting, and well, it's Monday morning. It's raining in Mallorca. Can you imagine? It's horrible weather. And guys, let me know when you guys are in the chat. We're very curious to see where everybody comes from. And today we're going to talk about, what are we talking about, Richard, today?
We are talking about cybersecurity threats in the supply chain and vendor for yachts, or the running of the yacht.
Yeah, and we are really delighted to have Richard and Mojo with us today. They're very well prepared, so I'm impressed with all the work they've put in there. And I wasn't aware of the fact that that vendor suppliers are a risk and how they could be a risk. So I think this is a great topic that we're having today. But before we go there, let's introduce Richard. Richard is the CEO of Pelion. You want to tell something about yourself, Richard, just briefly?
Yeah, my background is telecommunications. I've been working across banking, oil and gas, satellite, and various other sectors with a strong focus on cybersecurity for the last few years. Well, yeah, last 5 or 6 years, especially in the yachting sector, seeing that there's a big gap and a big need for more security and more due diligence in that area, especially with upcoming regulations in January.
Well, you're going to tell us all about that in a bit. And then we got Mojo, who's an independent consultant, but we work very closely with Richard, don't you, Mojo?
Indeed, I do. So I've worked in a number of sectors across vertical, delivering services and specifically cybersecurity. So this is the guys that are actually at the cold front and helping people make sure that their organizations are secure. So, yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us today. These webinars are very well, people love them, to be honest, because and even if they can't attend, we're recording them, and which means a lot of people watch them back, which is great. It's a source of knowledge, and that's what we're all about, like sharing knowledge, making sure that everybody knows what they're doing. And today, especially on who's your vendor, the supply chain threats. And I'm going to stop my presentation, hand over to you guys, Richard and Mojo. You want me to start your presentation quickly?
Yes, please, Honor. That'll be great.
And I'll leave you to it, and I'll be back in a second. Guys, anything in the chat, just put it in there. Questions, comments, remarks. It's going to be very thorough what they're doing. So I am expecting that most of the questions will be answered during the presentation and during the chat. But just feel free to comment. Take it away, Richard.
Okay, great. Thanks, Honor. Thanks to A-Crew for organizing this as well. Another great opportunity. What I'd like to do is start the discussion with a quick video, which will be a preamble to the discussion that Moyo and myself will have on supply chain threats and knowing who your vendor is, especially with upcoming regulations as well, as we mentioned. So, Honor, would you be good enough to start the video for me, please?
Yes, I'm starting the video. If you guys can mute yourselves, here we go.
Absolutely.
It's a business. We are professionals, and we are growing as fast as the internet itself. The first thing to be aware of is that whether you're looking to take down a rival's website, steal someone's identity, or take control of a network, your first target isn't IT infrastructure. It's people. 99% of attacks are aimed at people like you. Everyone uses email, and lots still fail to spot the signs of a simple phishing expedition. The unknown sender, poor grammar, incorrect information, irrelevance. More effective is spear phishing. Individually targeted emails with a reasonable ask. It looks like it's from someone you know, but just because it says it came from the boss doesn't actually mean that it did. Email doesn't work like that. People give up personal information so easily. Just think about it. Why would a company ask you for personal information or passwords they already have? But people don't think. never more so than in social media. Every time you announce where you're going or what you're doing, you're telling us that you are not at home. Or worse, you can reveal important business information that someone somewhere could make use of. If you want to get on the inside of a business, target the individuals that work there. Find their weakness, exploit it. Everybody has one. Just because you think you're talking to a beautiful girl doesn't mean that you actually are. We're all human. Some people are easily led into careless or foolish acts that leave them open to blackmail. Control the individual, and we can control what you do. People are the weak link. How many passwords do you have? People use the same password for their bank, their Facebook, their LinkedIn, their tax return. If I get your password, I can act as though I'm you. Spend your money, take out loans, even sell your house. I'll change the address for your statements, divert your emails. By the time you find out, I could have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and committed crimes in your name. I can phish with your phone, with texts, or WhatsApp, and upload malicious software to your phone without you knowing. When you connect it to a computer, the software can get to work, paralyzing the system until you pay up, or whatever we want to achieve. Technology is my friend. Every time you connect to a public Wi-Fi network, we can learn so much about you. Who you are, where you've been, who you work for. Use your phone for sensitive interactions like banking, and you are helping us to access your life. This is what I do. It is a business, and we are professionals.
Haziq Mohammed spent 3 weeks in a foreign prison before he was able to establish his innocence. On his return home, he found the cybercriminals had spent $12,000 on credit cards. His driving license had been used for insurance fraud, which had led to his arrest. Jeff Daniels couldn't face the images he shared with his virtual sex partner online, being seen by family and friends. So he followed the blackmailer's demands and installed a remote device on his company's network. He worked at a large European port. With remote access, a criminal gang were able to alter records to enable goods to be smuggled out of the port, unseen by customs. Christos Stamatis regularly posted information about his work on Facebook. As the chief of a container ship, travelling down the East African coast, he might have thought more carefully about who might be interested in this information. But it was his casual attitude towards how he used his personal devices on board that caused the most trouble. Having fallen for a texted phishing link, his phone was infected with malware. When he used the USB connection on Ecdis to charge his phone, the malware crashed the system. Without its primary means of navigation, the ship was forced to divert for repairs, causing a lengthy and costly delay to its voyage. Christos is now looking for a new job. Cybercrime is real. They target us because we are a weak link. Treat your personal and your company information like you would your cash or passport. Never hand it over unless you are 100% sure that you know who you are giving it to. Post on social media sensibly. Update your password to include letters, numbers, capitals, and symbols. Keep different passwords for different sites. Watch out for unsolicited and irrelevant emails with urgent requests for you to click on a link or upload information. Never assume that an email is from who it appears to be from. Never charge your personal devices on ship equipment. Use a dedicated USB charger. Surf the web with care. Stick to known sites. Avoid tempting links and free downloads. Nothing is free, even online, and the price you pay could be high. Never take part in anything online that you wouldn't want to show in the real world. 99% of successful attacks succeed because we fail to do the basics. Someone opens the attachment, clicks on the link, plugs something in. It only takes one careless click to expose the entire network. Make it difficult for cybercriminals. Don't be the easy target.
Well, thank you guys for the video, and I'm pausing it now so you can back to your presentation. Please unmute yourself, Richard.
Great start. Thanks, Onno. Let's go back to the slides. Slides. Okay. So obviously the video was very relevant to the commercial sector, but just as much as it is to the yachting sector. And I wanted to show that video. This one we did show on a previous workshop at Astieros in November. But a lot of the points there are relevant. And the question I've got here on this slide is, what does cybersecurity have to do with vendors and suppliers? Now, if a vendor or supplier, any one of these people, Ectis was mentioned there, you have engine management, these guys work with yachts, maybe they need remote access into particular systems, maybe they're collecting real-time data.
Yep.
Maybe it's other third parties you work with when you come into port to have work done on a refit. You know everyone that's coming in and going through that. So, Moyok, with your experience of supplier chain and vendor chain management, just wanted to.
Yeah, so these suppliers, what they're doing is, I mean, when an organization sets up a relationship with a supplier, you're providing them with details of your bank details, your key addresses, and basically what's happening is they've got all this information about you. What tends to happen is when someone comes in to do an attack, now it may not be from the supplier themselves may have been hacked and and all the information has been taken from them, and then suddenly there's a whole list of customers that cyber attacker has got. Now, when you're setting up a relationship with a vendor or a supplier, what you should do and what is best practice is normally to understand what their cybersecurity policy is. Because if they've got something in place, then it lowers the risk of them getting attacked and someone else having your information. So, you know, I mean, I had one customer who had been attacked in such a way. They received an email, and it was a type of phishing email, and it looked like a genuine supplier. There were maybe one or two incorrect spellings, which should have been a bit of a no-no, big red, green flag on red flag. Sorry, on the tone of the email, but they took it as first face saying, okay, cool, this is from so and so at this company. I've never met so and so, but they seem to know a lot about my company, and there's some relevant information here. So yeah, I'll pass on that information. Suddenly, it's the company's breached. You know, he's clicked on a link. A Trojan horse has been downloaded onto the company network, and then suddenly they've got more information. So from what they had initially, which was just location numbers and specific people that were in that customer, they suddenly were on the customer network and had more information in terms of details on plans and how and where things were going to be delivered.
Sure.
And so it is very critical that, you know, when you have that conversation with your supplier, understanding that they have a cybersecurity policy in place and what they're doing to implement it.
And that's probably even more critical when it comes to a yacht, because you've got the location information, you've got high-profile guests, you've got crew rotating potentially quite regularly on a yacht. And this is one of the reasons that I brought up this subject to do the workshop on, have this discussion, is working on various yachts over the last year or so. I've been acutely aware that a number of vendors, especially in the communications rack side of things. One example I came up with, or one example I saw, was a rack had 3 different PCs in the rack. I asked the engineer who the different PCs belonged to, because obviously knowing who they belong to, what they connect to, is a big part of what you're talking about there. So the engineer, unfortunately, couldn't answer where these 3 PCs came from. One of the reasons being was that the engineer plus the rest of the crew had just taken on the yacht. It had been recently sold by its previous owner. So the incoming crew didn't really have any time to take a good handover from the previous crew. Documentation was lacking, or they didn't know where it was. And if you're taking over a 50-meter plus yacht, a massive machine in the grand scheme of things, understanding and knowing all the systems on board for even a crew of 10 or 15 is going to be a big task. And when you're under pressure to get everything set up and ready for the incoming owner, there will be bits and pieces that are not necessarily known about. If everything's working, great. It turned out in this case, in the rack, the 3 PCs belonged. One was to a communications provider, one was to the vessel management company, and the other one, the IT guy that manages the onboard networks, so the Wi-Fi, etc. And helping the crew, or for the crew to understand exactly what's on that yacht, is a massive piece. So 2 of these PCs were actually connected to the internet outside of the firewall, meaning they were exposed. So that's that brings a massive question to how has anyone actually breached that before, and obviously the potential's there in the future.
It's happened. I mean, I remember one client where even something small as what's been highlighted here, you've got your Wi-Fi password has been put on. An external party came on site to the organization, found that there was a Wi-Fi password, the and the username, and that's all they needed. They just logged on from a remote distance, logged onto the internet using these credentials, and were able to make purchases.
Sure.
And then there's and these purchases, I mean, they're clever because they don't do like big purchases in one go. They normally do the rolling purchases on a monthly basis at different times, and so it didn't look odd. And it was about 6-7 months down the line when they were doing an internal audit that they'd realized, wait, hold up, something's gone wrong here. So even having some suppliers come on board to your yacht and giving them access to your rack, for example, where critical information is, you need to be mindful of what's there, who's going, and maybe even like have a log of who's entering and where they're from.
Absolutely. I had one example the other day where captain asked me if it was a good idea. He just had a new stabilizer installed on the boat, and the vendor wanted an IP address gateway for that particular piece of equipment so he could connect it to the ship's LAN, ultimately for them then to get access to that stabilizer, probably for remote monitoring and remote support, which is great. Anything that can be done to make the crew's life easier. But then there needs to be some due diligence taken whereby with that, is that connection going to be firewalled? Are the vendors going to be using a VPN to access it? Do they need that connection up 24/7? Because then you're giving, potentially, if they don't secure their link, that indirect access. If the vendor then gets hacked and they find all these different connections, the different stabilizers on different boats, potentially there's a way for the hacker, the attacker to access these different stabilizers, which are then connected to the vessel networks. And, you can get onto all the other systems that are not necessarily secured properly on the yacht. So there's a massive thing. And this, not just IT, but we're looking at engine management, we're looking at HVACs, the navigation. This is a big one, navigation PC connected to the network. So the crew can upload charts, and they can make modifications to the steering from the same PC. That was installed by a vendor, and it's a very similar situation to the stabilizer. Needed an internet connection, obviously, for bringing the charts in. So would you recommend some procedures? And I mean, I guess very simple procedures and processes would help
Yeah,
mitigate
and
that.
and they wouldn't be time consuming. A lot of these, I mean, people think, oh, cybersecurity, it's a lot of work to implement, but actually, it's small changes. It could be even as simple as recording who's coming into and out of that area,
Sure.
or verification when someone comes on board that they are who they are. Well, when you're making a purchase, is the end person who they say they are? How can we confirm that? Is there any authentication procedure? And when I say authentication procedure, people will start thinking, "Oh no, that's something technical." No, it's not. I mean, in the basic way of doing it is, I phone up the supplier. Supplier says yes, and then so they give me one type of confirmation, and then it could be a text message as another form of confirmation with a number that they already have because that's been agreed in the previous, in the original contract. So that way, it's a bit more secure. So it's little steps like that that can lower the risk of cyber.
On some of these bigger yachts, you could even implement access control, and I'm sure some of them do, where you've got critical systems, navigation, the core navigation system, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You can have access control to that system where everything is done electronically and logged, so you know exactly who is coming in and out. Which we're going to talk about it briefly in a moment. Which this will help with the IMO 2021 regulations, which needs to be. Most yachts over 50 meters need to be compliant with this. So I'd just like, Arno, could you, I'm just going to skip to the next slide, but you also have this as a poll question.
Yes.
Just wondering if you could.
I am going to run this one. So we're going to have a poll. Paul's going to enter in the chat. And I would like to ask everybody just to answer the question. What are the main areas of concern for yachts when dealing with third parties? And pick
Are
your
there any concerns?
Yeah, are there any concerns? But like pick the one that you think is most valid, and let's see what you guys come back with. And they've got a bit of a delay, so they will be seeing the answers coming in pretty soon, I hope. So.
I just thought, actually, did you put the first poll question on? Something I forgot about at the beginning.
No, I didn't. So you want to do that straight away, straight after this? Because you were
you
were in your flow, and I thought, let's get Richard.
Yeah, no,
He's in his flow. Let's leave him be in his flow. Reputation is the key thing so far. Let's see. It's gone. Security consciousness is there. Anything else coming in? Well, it's 50-50 at the moment. It is about reputation and security consciousness, most of them are saying. Locality is now coming up as well.
Yeah, that's a big one, because I guess a lot of yachts are going into ports certainly around the Mediterranean. So if you need a certain part for your bespoke yacht, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what you see now, it's very diverse. I'm going to end the poll, and then we can look at the results. It's like, so 12% says who you know, 12% reputation, 25% cost effectiveness, 37% on security consciousness, and then 12 locality. So it's very diverse answering that we've got here.
Fantastic. Do we have any on regulatory?
Well, I just no.
I didn't see anything on regulation.
No. Well, that's interesting, because that leads us nicely onto the next slide, which is regulatory. So many people may already know. If not, IMO 2021 is a regulation that's mandated by the International Maritime Organization for Cyber Risk Management. Now, this is where all commercial vessels and yachts, especially over a certain size, need to show they've done a cyber risk assessment. So this will include having a full asset register of all the equipment on board that connects to the internet, anything that can be hacked, and then also updating the ship's ISM. Now, the ISM being the the ship safety manual. So a new chapter will need to be in that document that describes an incident response plan as well. Now, time is getting tight for this, and I think there's going to be a big rush for getting this done come 2021.
So when is it coming into effect? Is it the beginning of 2021, or is there?
It's the 1st of January, Moyok.
Mm-hmm.
1st of January.
Right. So yeah.
1st of January. So vessels and yachts particularly should be looking to start this process, get the asset register started, knowing who your vendor is, the supply chain, and checking to ensure that they have been audited as well, so that they're maintaining the same high standards as you expect, which it sounds like from the poll there, that's one of the things that yachts were expecting. But also the risk assessment piece, looking at all the systems on board, not just IT, but also the OT equipment, and assessing the risk to those systems. What is the risk, and what is the likelihood that something could happen? And the idea being that you reduce the risk overall to all the systems on board, especially those safety critical systems. Wi-Fi is one thing, but your navigation and engine propulsion systems are a complete other thing. And this is where the systems overlap, and making sure that there's a good incident response plan in place as well, to include suppliers and vendors. On that side of things, Moyok, is that something you see on organizational level, that incident response plan will include suppliers and vendors?
Yes, so there is a specific section for suppliers and vendors where they tend to ask you how you go about locating your suppliers. Are they well known? What is the number of years that supplier has been working with you as an organization? Also, if they're compliant in certain standards. So it could be that the organization has nothing to do with yachting, but they supply to the yachts. And as part of that, there are other standards. Now, sometimes if that organization has these standards, it will mitigate the fact, will lower the risk on the IMO, for example. Mm-hmm. So that it does come up a lot in a lot of standards where suppliers and vendors are being looked into. What is the process? So you have to have a documented process or policy. Now, it doesn't have to be War and Peace. It can be a sheet of A4 which documents it in terms of writing, or it could be a flow diagram of this is the interactions that we have, and it could be as simple as that. But as long as you have that covered, you'll be deemed as lower risk.
So if you can prove in some way that your suppliers and vendors are compliant or have at least done the basics, then that goes some way to the IMO 2021 site risk management as well, because you're managing not only the risk of yourself, but also taking that further up the supply chain as well. And it would it be fair to say if the supply chain is secure, then the risk to the yacht being hacked is minimized, right?
Is reduced.
Cool.
It won't completely close it off, but it will reduce it a lot. It'll make it harder for the cyber attacker.
Well, that's where Pelion Consulting, we're working with not only the yachts, but also the vendors to the yachts or the supply chain as well, to ensure that the companies dealing directly with the yachts are taking on cyber risk as a foresight and implementing controls to ensure that they don't become the jumping point for an attack to the yacht. So, and one thing I wanted to talk about, Moyok, I don't know if this is anything you've dealt with much yourself, but how looking to the future as well, and continuing the cycle of improving security, which is always going to be an ongoing process. It's not just about putting the risk management in place once and doing the asset register, etc. But it's about ongoing development of that, ongoing reviews, ongoing audits to adapt to the changing threat landscape as well. But look into the future of blockchain and how that can potentially help
Yeah,
the supply chain. It is.
I mean,
Do you have any words on that?
yeah, I mean, in essence, what blockchain is, and the way I describe it is, it's you're making it when you're making a transaction with another party, it's a two-way transaction, right? That means there's still risk. If there could be risk on my side, in my organization, a disgruntled employee, anyone could take that information and then make purchases to the other party. Likewise, on the other party's side, they've got some information and they can use that to make, I guess, transactions potentially. What blockchain is you've got, rather than having two pieces of the puzzle, you've got a numerous number of puzzles, pieces, and they're distributed around the world, and they keep changing. So when you make a transaction, for example, it won't just rely between you and me. It will need a piece from somewhere else and somewhere else. And that is constantly changing. So it makes it more secure and less likely for people to hack and guess what the passcode could be. So it's dispersed. It kind of means that, you know, it's really, really hard to actually no one's actually penetrated or hacked into blockchain. So yes, I do believe the future is in blockchain and setting up blockchain technology to do big transactions or small transactions with third parties.
So I guess especially on a few of the examples there, maintenance yacht maintenance records, for example, can be incorporated into that. And obviously the more day-to-day things, agreements and contracts, payments, like you mentioned already, could be a good case for it. Maybe something we see more of in the future. Yeah,
and you could use it to also, yeah, like you said, not just transactions, but when you're planning a route and you're going on a journey, you don't want everyone to know where you're going, where your yacht's going. It needs to be encrypted. So, you know, you don't want, for God forbid, a terrorist taking over the boat, for example, because they've got access to that information. So going forward, using the blockchain will make it secure in terms of who's got that information. It's only down to yourself, basically, and you will know, and it'll reduce the risk of any outside threats, be it cyber.
It'd be great to see that used for, especially for the navigation and location of the yacht, which I know is massively important to these guys in order to protect their clientele at the end of the day. So there's certainly something we'll be looking at going forward, and you know, seeing if there's ways we can implement that into future projects.
Yeah.
So just a quick one here on how Pelion Consulting and our partners such as Moyak and other people can help. We're here to help you audit the third parties, create this asset register of everything else on board, and identify the risk. This, just by doing these few things, will go a massive way to IMO 2021 compliance for the cyber risk management. We would also encourage a culture of security awareness on board, where everyone is involved, from the deckhand through to the captain, and also taking that through, as we mentioned, the whole point of this discussion today, through your supply chain as well. So ensuring that your vendors and suppliers maintain that level of risk awareness as you do on the yacht.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah. I was going to say these assessments, they tend to be, you know, short assessments to kind of understand where you are against the standard. So the IMO, it could be a couple of days of just interviewing and speaking with yourself and looking at process. And then the output of that is here we think you are against the standard.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're doing good, that's good. But where there may be, where you guys are not doing that good, there may be suggestions that we can make that you can implement. So we do that. And like Richard said, there is also security awareness. And that is training. It could be just people coming in for a day as a luncheon or during a lunch and learn maybe, and doing taking part in security awareness, and there could be a short little test at the end of it. And this is something that we do for organizations, and we plan with you at the beginning of the year, so we don't have to do it all in one go. We can stagger it, and it's totally tailored to what your needs are.
Sure, and this can be done cost effectively as well. There's no reason to spend millions or hundreds of thousands or even thousands on this. It's understanding exactly what the risk is and what small steps can be put in place to improve that. So, yeah, we would keep up to date with the latest threats, maintain an ongoing relationship, because as we mentioned already, this is an ongoing process. The world is changing rapidly these days, and the different threats that are out there are also changing rapidly. So being that key partner for you guys to remain at the cutting edge of keeping your yacht cyber secure, ensuring your suppliers and vendors are secure as well, that's what we're here to help do, basically. And make it easier for you guys to cut through what can be a very confusing subject, especially on an environment as complicated as a yacht. Sorry, forgot what I was going to say there. Couldn't get my words out for a moment. So yeah, we're basically here to help cut through the muddle and make your lives on the yachts easier. Hi, Ono.
Hi. I was just like popping in because I saw a question in the chat.
Excellent.
I know that you already touched base on it, but like the risk assessment for us to do risk assessment for a supplier, how long does that normally take? And I know Mayuki already said something about that earlier, but maybe it's good to elaborate a bit more on it.
So in terms of an assessment, it varies. It depends on an organization, how much documentation you have. Typically, it could be 5 to 10 days.
5 to 10 days for every, yeah. So, and is that what every single supplier would have to do that? Because I know a lot of vessels, especially when they're in refit or they're having work done, they might work with a series of suppliers.
If I may jump in there quickly. So just we've been working with a number of suppliers directly in the yacht industry recently, and it does depend on the size of the supplier as to how long that risk assessment is going to take. Let's say a painting company, for example, I'm not going to mention any company names, versus a rigging company. International painting company painting the yachts is going to take them a lot longer to do a rigging company which has an office in one port, in one location, has a small team of people. So you're going, I would say, anywhere from 2 to 3 days to the 5 to 10 days that Moix mentioned there for 4 days. And ideally, you're getting as far through that supply chain as possible. Anyone that deals with the yachts, anyone that's handling the yacht's data, should be signing up to this, because they're all potential points of weakness. Moix, do you want to?
No, I think you've surmised it. I mean, it is a matter of who is interacting with the yacht. Having an understanding of that, sometimes the number of suppliers is too big, and that's what we'll do. I mean, we can sit down with you, walk through these scenarios, understand who the suppliers are, reach out to the suppliers, and work with you on this.
Good. Well, your sound was a bit in and out, but I think most of us heard what you said. No, don't worry about that. Because I can imagine, I'm just like, I try to ask the challenging questions once in a while. It's like, if I am in a rush and the boss has told me you've got 3 months to get the boat ready, which means you have to dismantle it. I don't have a month time first to vet my suppliers. I need to get straight on it. I mean, they need to dismantle the boat tomorrow. They need to put the scaffolding on today.
Yes, and this is similar to when the GDPR compliance came out. Companies were like, well, it's too short a timeline for us to go through all our suppliers, all our documentation to be ready for the timeline. That's fine. The standards boards understand that they're, you can't do things very quickly. It's a matter of starting the process. If you can demonstrate that you are actively working on it, it doesn't matter whether it's complete or not, that you're working on it, then that is a good starting point for them.
Another point will be that if you're doing a risk assessment for a supplier of one yacht, you're also doing that for many other yachts that are looking for that same level of compliance. So one yacht might request it, or they might just say, have you done this? Can you show that you've been audited? Can you show you've done the risk assessment? And that will automatically apply, not for that one yacht that's asked the question, but it will automatically apply for their whole customer base.
Okay.
So, yeah, there is obviously time factor in the yachting industry, and we know it's things are usually very tight, but it's getting that ball rolling now to ensure that all the pieces are in place. So when that question does come from the yacht or the yacht management company, that, actually, yes, we have it in place, or no, we are working on it.
Exactly. So because it's not necessarily, the question should come from the yacht. So if you're like the engineer, captain, first officer, you should always ask the question, or even the chief stewardess.
Sure.
And we're basically, we're saying that, and the yacht management company, obviously, but we're basically saying that vendors should need to be compliant. It's also the other way around. So basically, like, and obviously today we're talking mostly to crew, because but like this applies. So if I are a ropes and rigging company or a paint company, then I need to make sure that I am compliant.
Yeah.
Which in some cases it might be worse off the other way around, depending on how the yacht or the management company already perceive that threat, or if they know they need to be doing something. If they don't, then they might be the point of risk to the supply chain going back up rather than coming back down. So yeah, very, very good point.
Because I think with the fair point to get out of this, like in a lot of cybersecurity chats that the people are having all over the world, they always point at the yacht. So you need to make sure that you're cyber secure. But basically, the only thing you need to do is make sure that you ask everybody if they're cyber secure, and if they're not, you should question whether you want to work with them or not.
Exactly.
That sounds like a great conclusion, by the way.
I think you've summed it up nicely there, Ron.
Yeah.
That is exactly the point.
That's exactly the point, and I think that's the point we want to make, because we're also like we're 1:15. We got time for a few questions, if any. But like what I think with the summary we just made, I think we tackled a lot of those questions, if any. So and I'm not going to repeat it, but I think for all the yachties out there, no need to do everything yourself. Make sure you ask the right questions.
Absolutely. We're all in this together as well, you know.
We're all in this together, and like, and if your supplier somehow doesn't know how to handle this, well, I think Richard is very willing to help them as well to get this in order.
You know where to find us.
Fantastic. Well, for everybody who's been watching, thank you so much. This is rainy Mallorca. I even had thunder in my ear during the webinar. I hope nobody heard that. Like it's serious stormy out here. Wow. So thank you for being here. Julian's thanking us in private. I know he's your colleague, and I think he's basically saying, "Well done, guys. Well done."
I think so. Yeah. Cheers, Julian.
Thanks, Julian.
And this video will be uploaded today. So if anybody want to watch it back, for you guys to share it with anybody. Again, thank you very, very much for today, and speak to you soon. and we're going off air in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.